All right. Hello and welcome back to a most excellent episode of the Hammercast, where I am joined by none other than Matt Schifferle of the Red Delta Project, which I am sure you have heard of if you have not been living under a rock or some other sort of geometric formation over the course of the last 10 or so years. He has been around probably as long as I have been into calisthenics, which has been a very, very long time. He's written some books. He's put out some phenomenal information. He's written really incredible articles for everything from the PCC blog and a wide variety of other sources. And probably one of the strongest and most muscular dudes I know, who is a serious devotee of calisthenics. And so I want to take a moment to say welcome, Matt. It's great to have you on the show.
Thank you very much, Alex. It's great to be here. I've been listening to you guys for quite a while, and it's absolutely a pleasure to be on the podcast.
Pleasure's all mine. And you know what? We were talking a little bit about this before too. I gotta give a shout out to your awesome T-shirt, Paul Wade's Old School Calisthenics. If you are watching
Model that
old
a
school
little.
progressive calisthenics, if you were watching this on
Yep,
YouTube, you'll be able to see it. If not, you have to take my word for it. It is epic. And Paul Wade himself gave you the thumbs up on that, as I understand.
exactly. Yeah. Sometimes if I can't sleep at night, I'm just going to get on like my little graphic design program and start messing around and having some fun with it. And one night I just came up with this design. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I want that on a shirt. I probably shouldn't just do it off the cuff here. So sent an email out to Coach Wade because I've been in touch with him ever since Convict Conditioning came out, and I did a couple reviews for him. And I was like, I kind of want to make this happen, but feel free to say no because I know he's very kind of secret about what he allows to be put out there and stuff
Yeah.
under his name. And he basically wrote back. I saved the email and everything. He's like, "Yeah, I'm not on board with this, but for you, I'll make the exception." And I was like, "Oh, now it's even more like I have to make this shirt." And so it's still available on my merch page and everything. People can pick it up, but it's one of the more proud designs that I've got just because, hey, it's endorsed by the man himself.
It's super cool. Yeah, and I would have to say that there's there are a couple of names that I think really pop up when people think about calisthenics, at least as of the last couple of years, maybe last decade or so. And I think, there's obviously Paul Wade, Zal Cavadlo, there's you. So to give or to get that kind of an endorsement from the otherwise very secretive and elusive Paul Wade, it's not like the kind of a thing that he just gives to everybody. So definitely kudos on that.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Very proud of that and wear the shirt with pride.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Here's one thing I don't know because like I said, I've followed you for a long time and maybe you have spoken about it somewhere and I've just been too distracted by, the articles and the insights and all this other stuff. But I would love to know what your origin story is because I think in particular, having such a keen and acute focus on calisthenics in particular is something that we've really only seen kind of crop up, at least in the Western world over the course of again, probably the last, I would say 10, 11, 12 years, something like that. I mean, were you always interested in fitness or did you get your start in sports and then trade over to fitness? How did that happen?
Kind of. I had a really weird and unusual start to this whole thing because even as a youngster, like I always admired strength and the ability to be athletic and stuff. I always liked superheroes and comics and everything like that. But the fact is that I've always been an absolutely terrible athlete, like gifted, not in the slightest bit
Hmm.
with anything physical. And sometimes you get that. Some people they get into fitness because they're good at sports and they're good at being strong and physical prowess and they want to build on the thing they're already good at. And then you got guys like me who couldn't even hang from a pull-up bar. Or like I've played basketball back in grade school, and in my best ever season, I scored 4 points. Not in a game, the entire season, mind you. I
Yeah.
was able to score 2 baskets. So that was always my lot. Was I was always kind of fascinated with breaking out of the perpetual limitations that I felt my body had. I was always small. I was always weak. I couldn't put one foot in front of the other. I've done Taekwondo since I was 10. And what would usually come to most white belts within a few months took me years to learn. Like, I've never been good at anything
Hmm.
physical, is basically what I'm saying. So I've always loved fitness. from the perspective of breaking out of my inherent limitation, even though my ability to be a natural athlete was anything far from it. But the other thing that was unusual about my upbringing was the fact that I grew up in upstate Vermont, in the 80s and 90s. And this was a time where I didn't have access to a gym. This was pre-internet. I didn't even think of going to the library and looking up something like Arnold's Encyclopedia or something like that. So I had this desire to physically condition myself somehow, but I had no access to any resources at all. All I knew to do was to just go out and hike on the trails or ski the mountains or ride my mountain bike and stuff. And so as a result, I always had this inherent knowledge that I couldn't become too dependent on external variables for my success. Because the more I depended on a gym or a lot of fancy equipment or a special diet and stuff, the less control I actually had over my ability to escape these limitations.
Mm-hmm.
And at first, I went down a path where I was like, okay, in order to get stronger, I need some sort of resources. So I need to get the resources. I need to get weights. I need to get equipment. I need to get diet foods and supplements and rules and all these sorts of things. And I thought that having more control meant having more things and more things that I could use. And so I started to, I wasn't able to have any access to any type of exercise equipment until college, where I had the local university gym, and being gym was loosely termed. It was more like just a giant closet full of equipment that people probably couldn't really sell at their local garage sales. And that's what I started using the first year. And that quickly taught me that I couldn't go down that path because the hours were extremely limited. I had real hard time getting there with my busy schedule. I had really hard time getting the workouts in with my busy schedule. I was a bike racer, so I very rarely had the energy. It was all these not only limitations that I had personally, but just lifestyle limitations where I wanted to put in the time and the work and the effort. I had a crazy strong work ethic, but it felt like life was always fighting me with what I could do. And so it was always this struggle of this is what I want to do, but I can't quite make it happen. And so for years, it was always this tug of war between what I could practically do and what I wanted to do to condition my body. And during this time, in the back of my mind, I was always thinking, wouldn't it be great if I didn't need the gym, if I didn't need all the equipment and the universal machines and the cables and the leg press and all this? Wouldn't it be great even if I could just use my own body weight to condition my body? And I dabbled in it a little bit, but again, there was no internet back then. I didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea of progressive theory or anything. So I just ended up doing a whole bunch of push-ups and running around the block a bunch because that's all I could really glean from my Taekwondo training. That's all we did in class. And of course, the results were moderate at best. I'm like, well, okay, I guess you can't really do much with bodyweight training because you have to have all the stuff. So then when I got out of school and I started working at an equipment store that sold home gym equipment, then I became obsessed with equipment. And I made it basically my mission for the next 10 some odd years to just somehow have as much control as possible over my equipment resources. I would just spend all my money on exercise equipment, all the weights. I had a small little apartment that was crammed with as much equipment as possible. I just had to be in control. I didn't want to become dependent on things that were outside of my control, because the more I was dependent on things outside of my control, the less control I fundamentally had over my body, which is, of course, what we all really want when it comes to this fitness thing. And so that was okay. I mean, I became a trainer, I worked in gyms, all of this in the name of control until I started to really burn out and my body was starting to get beat up. And that's when convict conditioning came across my desk. And I thought, okay, this is going to be a nice little break from the weights. It's just going to be a light form of training. Because remember, I tried the body weight thing for years, never really worked out. But of course, Paul Wade's take was more along the lines of this is how we're going to use it to build real strength, how we're going to use it to build some actual muscle.
Mhm.
And that was the first time that I started to entertain the idea of, oh my gosh, this dream of mine that I've long had, this fantasy, if you will, is actually possible. And so I took a month and I applied what I learned from convict conditioning, and it was transformative for both mind, body, and lifestyle. And I've been going down the rabbit hole ever since.
A couple of things that you said really stand out that you figured out way earlier than a lot of other people did. And I would say that one of them has got to be the importance of recognizing the need for control over your body and also your schedule. Because, okay, so you think about it, I hear this all the time. I'm sure you hear this too. People are like, yeah, or fitness influencers are telling people, go to the gym, start making it a habit. It's like, well, you know what? Like they might be 30 minutes away from the closest gym or a gym that actually has equipment that's going to be of any value to them. They may only be able to go at times where they're peak hours, and a lot of people are using the equipment that they need to use. They may have a lot of other things that they need in a 30-minute or 20-minute commute in just one direction, followed by, you know, 45 minutes, hour-long workout, not including the showers and times to get dressed and whatever. It's just not feasible for people. And this is one of the things that I think in particular we saw a lot during COVID, where it was like, well, now in many cases you just can't go to the gym. And I couldn't help but laugh where I would see all these influencers who were always peddling these exercises on like the most like absurdly specific machines, like the pendulum squat and, things that are probably cool and are probably going to be helpful, but are in no way a necessity for doing these movements. No, now they had like a body weight course, like, oh, look at all the stuff you can do at home. And it was like, it was just so transparent that they had just never considered it before. And just how out of touch so many of them were with the needs of, the people that they're best suited to be able to help, which are not other trainers, but actually people who need help with fitness to begin with. I know I had my experience like that. I think this was the year before convict conditioning came out. Actually, it was like 2009, and I did a medical testing study. It wasn't anything crazy, it was like I made $1,000 doing it, but at the time that was the most I had made in like a 3-day period. So, but I asked if I could bring a kettlebell in to work out while I was there, and they're like, no, no, of course you can't. And I remember just being so mind-numbingly bored, and it made me realize that like I should probably get better at this whole calisthenics thing, because like that might actually have prevented this, me just sitting around and staring at a TV for hours and hours on end. Now, when you discovered convict conditioning in particular, you mentioned it taking like a month to just kind of set in, get used to it. Did you go by the book, like by the standards, like start off with just level 1 and then go to level 2, or did you kind of play around with it a little bit and before you noticed that like, hey, I'm seeing some real results?
Yeah, I played around with it a little bit. Truth be told, I am terrible at adhering to any kind of program out there. I have forced myself to adhere to various strict programs throughout the years. And I don't know if it's a personality thing or if I'm just too stubborn and independent, but I'm like the husky dog that will refuse to sit. Like, if you tell me to do 100 burpees, I'll flip you the bird and say, screw you, I'm going to do this other thing instead.
Yeah.
I can't follow a strict program to save my life. And that goes for a lot of other things. I can't follow a script to save my life. I can't follow a recipe, anything where it's like, do it exactly this way. I will try. I will give it my honest effort. But inevitably, my brain is going to be like, yeah, but I think I'm better off doing it this way instead of that way and doing things my own way. Now, truth be told, a lot of times that is to my own detriment. There's a lot of things with calisthenics, especially from Paul Wade's point of view, where he's like, okay, do it this way. I'd be like, no, I'm better off doing it this way. And then inevitably later on, I'm like, oh, yeah, Coach Wade knew what he was talking about. I should have listened to him beforehand. And it's literally at the point now where if he comes out with an article or a perspective and he's like, try this. And I'm like, I don't think so. Now that voice in the back of my head is like, he's always been right. You've always been wrong, Matt.
Yeah.
Do the thing that he's talking about, because it's always been that way.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I have a real hard time with following the strict thing. So when I was doing the combat conditioning stuff, I was also implementing other just things that I had picked up over the years. I was doing a lot of dips because I've always liked dips. I was also using suspension straps, which were still very new at the time. Nobody really knew what the heck they were. I had one of the first ever Lifeline jungle gyms from Johnny Hines. And that was something that I had implemented a little bit in some of the classes that I was teaching, but I didn't quite really, again, know what I was doing with it and stuff. But then when I started to really get into the principles of progressive calisthenics training, suddenly the light bulb went off and I was like, oh, now I know what these straps really are. Because of, a lot of stuff with the, like the TRX, the early versions, they were doing all sorts of, this functional training kind of stuff. And I was like, no, that's not at all what this is. This is, my straps here. This is a weight machine that fits in your pocket. I'm not going to use this to be like standing on wobble boards and doing all this function. I'm going to use this just like a bodybuilder. I'm going to use this as a venerable weight machine that I can hang from my doorway. And when I started looking at it that way, everything changed, because then it's like, okay, bicep curls, tricep extensions, chest flies, all these things. Because I'd always been, like I said, enamored with the straight up kind of old school bodybuilding strength era stuff. Mm-hmm. Like keep your fancy stuff. I want pumping iron. I want to train like a bodybuilder. Even these days with calisthenics, like I have no interest at all in skills. I don't care if I never do a muscle up at all. Like I have no interest in that at all. I want to take what was Arnold Schwarzenegger doing in pumping iron? How do I do the exact same thing to my body, but with bodyweight training? Mm-hmm. And so convict conditioning's progressive calisthenics, along with the straps blended together with a little bit of weighted calisthenics mixed in, gave me that ability to basically, I used to take, back in the day, we had these things called magazines at the gym that I was at, where people would be bored out of their minds and doing cardio and they flip through these magazines, right? We had bodybuilding magazines, and I used to take the routines from like Flex and Muscle and Fitness and stuff. And I would literally say, okay, that's the body building routine for legs or shoulders or whatever. How do I do exactly that, rep for rep, set for set, movement for movement, but with bodyweight training? And just mix and match one right after the other. And that's what I was eventually able to build up into. And I was like, oh, yeah, this is the type of calisthenics training that I should be doing. This is what I want to do, because I don't want the high rep stuff. I don't want the endurance. I don't want to train like I'm going into the Marines or anything. I don't want to train like I'm an acrobat or circus performer and stuff. I want to basically be doing body weight bodybuilding. And convict conditioning has always been the foundation for that, augmented with the other things. And that's what really took it off.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, because so many people, I think a lot of people don't really think about what they're able to do with calisthenics. They have a point of view like what yours originally was when you were doing Taekwondo, and you were like, oh, maybe I'll run and I'll do a bunch of push-ups. Oh, not a whole lot has happened. Ergo, bodyweight training is not really good for all that much of anything. Whereas there are others who see it as, maybe a supplement for their bodybuilding or powerlifting, because chin-ups and dips, for instance, have always been kind of a staple in the world of bodybuilding and powerlifting and things like that. But most people, what they're really after is looking good. And then they assume, oh, well, you really can't do that with body weight. You need machines. It's like, look at gymnasts, man. Like they're studs.
Absolutely. And the thing that we often forget in the calisthenics world is we look at gymnasts and we look at these folks on social media who are doing amazing feats of strength and the skills and stuff, like, wow, that's amazing. And look at their body. Therefore, I need to be doing what they're doing. But we forget so much. It's like, how they were able to do those amazing things and build that body? It's not those tricks. It's being able to do 20 pull-ups at a time. Mm-hmm. It's being able to master the hell out of push-ups. Yeah. It's being able to squat and do lunges at a level that is uncommon amongst most even gym goers. Yeah. That's what builds up the foundation that allowed them to do those things. And that's how they built up their physique to begin with. They just put the finishing touches on with the skills and everything, but they don't have big biceps because they're doing these crazy ring muscle up transitions, backflips and stuff. They got big biceps because they're really freaking good at pull-ups.
Yeah.
That's how they got them that way. And that's what we want to build off of.
Yeah, you need the foundation. You need to learn how to widen it and deepen it. I think that's the other thing people forget is they find like one variation they really like, okay, that's the only one I'm ever going to do. And if you look at them, they're always capable of doing a wide variety of different types of, let's say, pull-ups or dips or push-ups or, squat variations, things of that nature. And so the variety plays a huge role into it, plays a huge role as well. Now, one thing that I would be curious to get your take on, because I'm sure you have a clientele that sees you and they're like, okay, this dude's jacked, he's muscular, and he's using only calisthenics. How can I do the same thing? So if somebody were to come to you and say, you know what, I like your approach. I don't want to have to go to some nasty gym and breathe other people's sweat and, BO and what have you. What can I do at home just with calisthenics to get me started off on the right foot? Like, and let's say they have no equipment. They don't even have any straps or anything like that. How would you suggest that they start working toward a full body strength program, even if their only equipment is the floor space, a couch, some wall, stuff like that?
Excellent. So, as my mentor and friend El Cavadlo always said, for calisthenics training, you need, a place to hang, maybe a wall, and the floor beneath your feet.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have the floor beneath your feet, you've got bigger problems. So take care of that first. But, I get that question a lot when people are like, I don't have a place to hang. I don't have a pull-up bar. And to that, I always say, well, you got to build one, you got to find one, or you got to buy one. So I'm not going to come out and say, okay, you can do everything on the floor and you can work your back. Yeah, there's some stuff you can use that'll get your back and stuff on the floor and everything. But the bottom line is you got to get your environment set first. And that is key with calisthenics as well as anything. Because yeah, you can do it anywhere. You can just drop to the floor and start banging out. But we've got to get some sort of environment. You got to build yourself a gym. And that could literally mean arranging the furniture in your living room so you've got some open floor space. But you've got to have a space that you can train in, because what we're trying to do is establish consistent habits of training. And if you don't have a space that's conducive to doing that, it's just not going to happen. That's the first thing. And like I said, with some place to hang, buy one, make one, or find one. So I've got DIY pull-up apparatuses on my YouTube channel. The simplest one is literally a length of rope and 2 PVC handles. And you can buy that for like, $10 or something, and you throw it over a tree limb or something. But you gotta find that. Doorway pull-up bars, you can get them cheap on Amazon, of course. The duonomic pull-up bars, pull-up handles that you can do in the doorway, they're more expensive, but they're very, very high quality. Or just find one, like find a park, find something around you. Maybe your apartment complex has a pull-up bar in the gym. It's not that hard to find or make or procure once you set your mind to it. So we've got to get that taken care of at least. The second point that you want to do is have a basic knowledge of fundamental progressive calisthenics theory. So you were mentioning earlier of how people will find one particular variation of an exercise and they'll just kind of get stuck with that one variation. But what we have to understand is that fundamentally calisthenics is still a form of weightlifting. Mm-hmm. It's just you're the weight, but you're still lifting weights. And B, we still add resistance by adding weight. And that doesn't only apply to weighted calisthenics where we're wearing a weight vest or something. We still adjust the amount of resistance on our muscles by literally shifting our body weight from one part of our body to another. So if I'm doing push-ups on like a couch or something, I have a certain amount of weight on my feet and a certain amount of weight on my hands. And if I put my hands on something lower or on the floor, I've literally removed weight from my feet and put it on my hands. It's exactly the same thing as lifting a heavier weight. You're adding weighted resistance to your hands. So understanding how that works and how to do that and your basic fundamental exercise patterns is essential for being able to progress and get what you want from calisthenics. Otherwise, you fall into what I call the calisthenics rut. The calisthenics rut is where mentally and emotionally you have this perception of there's one standard way of doing an exercise, and that's what you do 99.9% of the time. And that can be okay. But what that does is it's essentially like saying, okay, I have 135 on the barbell. And I go into a gym and I have a barbell and there's a 45 on each side. And that's the only weight I ever lift.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter what I'm doing. If it's bicep curls, then I'm struggling for like 2 reps. If it's bench press, then I'm knocking out 20. If it's deadlift, well, I can do it till the cows come home kind of thing. If you went into a gym and you're like, I only lift 135, always, never anything heavier, never anything lighter, well, of course, that's going to severely limit your potential. But
Mm-hmm.
we do that all the time with calisthenics when we think this is the standard push up, this is the standard pull up or squat or whatever. We're severely limited because chances are very good that a standard push-up is going to be either over or underloaded for most people out there. That's not the push-up you should be doing most of the time. I very rarely will do a standard push-up. I'm almost always doing something easier than that or harder than that for whatever application I'm using, because that's, of course, only one level of resistance. And so 135 on the barbell, most people who lift weights are probably not going to lift 135 most of the time because it's either too heavy or too light for their application. So understanding that basic progressive calisthenics theory isn't hard to learn, but knowing that and understanding it in application is absolutely vital important. And once you have that, you have far more knowledge about how to use your body for your own weight machine than most other people out there.
Yeah, and the other thing I would add on to that is that by learning how to, we'll say, like manipulate leverage in such a way that you can make easier or more challenging your various different calisthenics movements, you're going to have a lot more fun. If you're just like every time you show up and it's the same drudgery as it was before, like you're turning what should be like kind of a joyous interlude from your day exercise, and you're taking it and turning it into something that's like a drudgery and a chore. And I definitely think that, let's say you're trying to train for like, a new PR in terms of how many reps you can do with a certain exercise or how heavy, you can add weight to your push-ups or your pull-ups or something like that. But that's like a short period of time for the most part. Most of us are training for the rest of our lives. So it's like, why limit yourself over the long run to something like that if your goals don't really reflect it? And make it something that you don't really look forward to anymore. I think the thing that really keeps people coming back is not just the results that they get from their training, but it's also like the joy of the process where they look forward to being like, you know what, today I get to work out for 30 minutes. This is my alone time or whatever the case may be. And they want to know that not only are they moving forward, but that just showing up is fun, so that it's not like everything is being deferred into the future, like all of their enjoyment and what have you, but it's actually something that they can really enjoy right now. Now, I'm also curious to hear what your take is, and I think I might know what it is about if somebody's already working out and they're doing weight training and they want to go to the gym, they still want to lift weights, still want to use machines, or whatever the case may be, but they also want to start adding calisthenics in. How would you recommend that people go about doing something like that?
Well, there's a couple of ways we can go about it, and it depends on what you want to get out of each modality. Now, one of the things that you can both aspire to do, but also may be a mistake, is to make your calisthenics training and your weight training fundamentally the same thing. So, this is something that we kind of want to aspire to because one of the biggest mistakes that people make when they try to dabble in calisthenics is they fundamentally change what their muscles are doing. So, they could be on a bench press and they're like, oh, yeah, I love 5x5. So, they got a nice heavy weight, 5 hard sets for 5 repetitions. Good. And then they're like, oh, I'm going to do calisthenics training. Well, okay, here's an app that'll teach me how to do 100 push-ups in a row. Great, awesome. And this now they're going for super lightweight, high rep training. And of course, they're getting different results. And they're like, calisthenics is not the same as weightlifting. It's totally not effective and stuff. It's like, because you're training light. It's the same thing as going into the gym and saying, I got 65 pounds on the bench press. I'm going to see if I can lift it 100 times. And most people, they'd be like, what are you doing, man? Like, why? Like, you can add more weight than that. It's the same fundamental thing. So it really boils down to, do you want to create a fun, different stimulus or the same thing? So if you're looking at calisthenics of saying, I just need to give my joints a break, I want something different to do, but I still want to be going after the same thing, then yes, make sure you're using calisthenics in the same basic programming as your weightlifting. So if you're doing 5x5 on the bench press, you need a push-up variation that's also 5x5 or weighted dips or something. It's got to be the same fundamental movement pattern for the same roughly sets and reps and resistance level and stuff. So that's if you want to get the same thing out of calisthenics as your weightlifting. And that's just preference and stuff. The other way to look at that, though, is, and this is one thing that I often encourage, is if you want to use different modalities, use them for a very different stimulus that's still relative to your goals. So I saw this happen with kettlebells, for example, where when people were really getting into kettlebells and they'd be like, okay, this is what I would do in the gym. I'd do like bicep curls and tricep extensions and bench press. Okay, so kettlebells, how do I do the same thing? How do I do bicep curls with kettlebells, and how do I do tricep? The thing is, though, different tools work really well for different modalities. So I'd be like, yeah, use the barbell for the bench press and for your bicep curls. But then when you're on kettlebells, now you do your swings and your snatches and your Turkish get-ups and things like that. So when we're creating a fundamentally different stimulus, you're broadening your exposure to the stimuli that your body's getting exposed to. Because that's what happens a lot of times. People will use several different tools with calisthenics and cable machines and free weights and regular like hammer strength machines and stuff, but they're still doing the same 3 sets of 10 every time. And then they wonder why nothing is really happening. It's like, because you're fundamentally still doing the same thing. The flavor of the exercise is changing, but you're not doing anything new or different to your body. It's kind of like eating 5 different kinds of chicken and then wondering why your diet isn't and getting any better. It's like, it's the same thing as eating one kind of chicken. Instead, have chicken and some salad and some fruit and some pasta and, different things. Same thing with calisthenics. If you want to really broaden your stimulus and you're like, I'm really on with the body building kind of thing with the weights, I'm like, great. So now maybe try more of the calisthenics skills aspect of things, explosive push-ups, front levers, getting into some sort of like unilateral leg training that's fairly difficult to do, like hover lunges and things like that. Make it sure that the body is getting exposed to a very different type of training stimuli. So that way, collectively, they complement each other instead of just, well, it's the same thing as I was doing before. Well, now you've got more exercises and more tools and more workouts that you're doing, and it's all just redundant, same thing as before. So it really boils down to, do you want a complementary stimulus that's going to be different from weightlifting, or do you want to basically accomplish the same thing and just be using a different tool to change up the flavor? That's the way you want to use it, depending on what you want out of it.
Yeah, I like the idea of complementary, particularly because, right within that idea is that you're doing something slightly different, but that is having still having the desired effect. And I do think that, a lot of people tend to look at calisthenics, like we've talked about, as sort of like a high rep activity. And there are ways that you can do that and make it productive. And so, if somebody's doing, we'll say like lower rep sets of things, maybe like heavy sets of 5 with, barbell training, or maybe they're doing something similar with kettlebells. And then you add in maybe, a couple of sets of 15 to 20, we'll say like walking lunges, or, hard push-up variation or hard row variation. What it ultimately ends up happening in most cases is that they start to see some new growth, some new strength. Maybe their joints are feeling better because they're doing something a little bit more high rep than what they're used to. They see that their overall muscularity and performance is improving, and then they're bought in. And so then they're like, well, I wonder, what it would be like to do a 1-arm push-up, or maybe if I were to do like a one-legged squat, build up to something like that. So some people they use what they previously viewed as like a supplement to see like, well, what if I were to focus on this a little for a little while in a similar fashion to what I'm currently doing, and try to do some low rep strength with it. And that is, I think, the sort of a great way to get people to see that calisthenics is more than just a supplement, but it can actually be their main focus, and they can get some really cool results out of it as well, and all the things that they were training for before.
Absolutely. And it's also just, I always encourage people that use things, base them very much on just personal preference. there's a lot of stuff that we can look at. It's like, oh, the advantages of calisthenics and the advantages of weightlifting and the advantage of this and the disadvantage and all these. But at the end of the day, if you can effectively create the stimulus you want with either, just fine, then you should base it largely on just, wow, what do you like better?
Mm-hmm.
What do you feel better doing? What do you just feel like you can bring more to the table with? And that's purely why I mostly calisthenics, is just because it's like I just like doing it more.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't do this and that. Yeah, I don't want to. That's a good reason not to. Yeah, that's a real good reason not to do it.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's like I don't like doing this exercise. I don't like doing that. Why? Purely because I just don't like it. It doesn't feel as good. I don't feel as comfortable with it. I don't feel like I can push as hard. That's plenty reason not to do a certain exercise, because everything, it's either desired or required. And if it's neither of those things, there's no good reason to do it.
Yeah, that's a point that I think should really resonate with people, because there are so many people who think like, I'm really supposed to be doing this, that, or the other thing. It's like, well, says who? It's like
Yeah.
I spent a good amount of time learning the bench press, and then I've ultimately found my shoulders just really didn't like it very much. And I wouldn't say that nobody should do the bench press, but for me, it's like I don't really see the point in pursuing it anymore. Like I did my dance with it. It was fun while it lasted, but it's not something that I feel like all that devoted to or all that called to get, much better at. So I can build plenty of strength and muscle in other ways, and that's just kind of what I've focused on. And a lot of people don't like that. A lot of people like the idea of being told exactly what to do, and that there are certain things that you absolutely must do. And I think there's some sort of trepidation that some people have with the idea that no, you can pick and choose what you do, and start with the stuff that you like and then expand outward, because in all likelihood you're going to start with the things that you find cool, and then once you get a little ways forward, you're going to be able to see a little further and think, okay, well, if I started doing this, I wonder what would happen. And that's the sort of a thing that's more likely to keep you on the wagon longer, as opposed to being like, no, so and such guru said you have to do this, that, or the other thing, and if you're not doing it, then you're not a real trainee, you're a total wuss, or whatever. It's like, no, find something you like doing, and then just see where it takes you.
Exactly. Because at the end of the day, all you need to do is create those fundamental stimuli. If you want to make your muscles bigger and stronger, you got to challenge them against progressively heavier resistance. That's literally the only real requirement we've got. You can do whatever the hell you want to make that happen. You can adopt and discard whatever exercises you like, whatever tools, whatever programs you like. If there's just something out there that doesn't really resonate with you, get rid of it. And I know that gets some people a little nervous when I suggest things like, oh, especially if someone's been like, oh, I've been doing this exercise for the past 18 months and it's just not really my thing. I'm just not resonant. I'm like, yeah, get rid of it. Throw it in the trash, put it on the back burner for a while. And I'm a big fan of putting things kind of on a back shelf, not necessarily throwing away, because I'll still pull out something every once in a while. Like that always felt really bad on my shoulder, but then I'll learn something more about keeping my lats tighter, packing the shoulders better, and then I'll take it back down. I was like, I wonder if that feels any better now. And I'm like, oh yeah, that feels better. Still don't like it though, and I'll put it back on the shelf, because as a coach, it's my responsibility to learn these things about methods that I don't necessarily practice a whole heck of a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's perfectly fine to say, yeah, that's not my thing. I'm just gonna kind of put it away and not really practice it because it's just not in alignment with what I need or what I can do.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, give us some insight into like what your current training looks like. Do you have any particular goal in mind? Are you just kind of like cruising along and just enjoying the ride, or is there something in particular that
Yeah,
you're
kind
working
of.
on?
Sometimes the process itself can be a goal. Every time I'm training, I want to just feel very much in command of my body and the ability to push my muscles extremely hard. And yes, I'm always after strength and muscle first and foremost. That's always what my number one goal is. I want to build strength. I want to build muscle. End of discussion. Everything else is a far distant second to it. The other stuff that I'll pursue through other means. What about cardio? I go ride my mountain bike, but it's not something that I pursue with nearly as much vigor. Like I haven't ridden my mountain bike in over a month. I don't care. It's fine. I'll ride it again when the weather is nice out here in Colorado. But the strength and muscle is first and foremost. So every time I'm working out, That is the objective. I want to push my muscles very hard as far as how much tension they can hold for strength. And I want to push their work capacity at some point where I'm just basically burning the mother living hell out of them. Getting to the point where I'm like doing tricep extensions and I feel like muscle is ripping from the bone kind of thing. Like I want my muscles to feel absolutely obliterated in most of my workouts. Now, of course, I can't make that happen all the time. There's always limitations as, oh, I didn't get a good night's sleep last night, or I'm not feeling my best, or I didn't eat, so well this week because of one reason or another. So it's not something I can always accomplish, but that's always what I'm after. You're talking about earlier, the importance of having fun with your training. And especially in our fitness culture, the importance of instant gratification gets really a bad name. But I'm always championing the need for instant gratification. People will adhere to productive habits a lot better if they get a reward as soon as possible. Now, are you going to build 20 pounds of muscle overnight or lose 30 pounds? What? No, of course not. But I'm always championing like a workout should leave you feeling better afterwards than when you started it.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times that's my workouts. Like I'm just here to feel good. I don't care if I hit PRs. I don't care if, I don't make progress today. Sometimes I'm literally doing a workout because it's like I'm stressed out. I'm full of angst. I just got to unleash some energy and hellfire into this pull-up bar. And if that's all I accomplish in that workout, mission accomplished. That's what I wanted to do out of it. I wanted to feel better. So I'll certainly pursue that. And I have my grind style approach where every workout I start off, I have the 4 phases that ensure that happens on a reliable basis. I always start off with tension control activities, which is very basic, simple isometric stuff to fire up the muscle, then shifting into stability exercises. And both of these things back to back could be literally like 30, 40 seconds worth of training. It doesn't need to be very long. Then I'll go into my strength and proficiency phase. And for that, I'm utilizing the exercises that I want to be relatively fresh for and have a lot of intensity with.
Mm-hmm.
So these are my archer push-ups, my commando pull-ups, single leg squats, things that I keep the reps low, the intensity jacked up way high, and I will save quite a bit of reps in the tank with that because I don't want to exhaust my muscles. I basically am pushing my muscles and my body to perform at its absolute best that I can from a performance standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll just do that as long as I can until I start to fatigue. Could get 2 good sets out of it, could get 15, for all I know. Usually it's generally 3 to 5 sets. And so when I start to notice that I'm starting to fatigue, then I will shift into more of the work capacity phase. And that's when I'm going after the bodybuilding style single joint movements or higher rep stuff, 15, 20 reps, burning the mother living hell out of the muscle till I'm just peeling myself off the floor, finishers, if you will. And then that's it. That's my typical workout, is that style and approach.
And it seems like it's worked very well for you because, you've been at this for a long time. You have an incredible physique, really impressive strength, and you built it almost entirely with calisthenics. And I think one of the things that's very cool about you is that you're always, like you said, you're always learning new stuff. So you're always re-examining things that you've done in the past, seeing if things have changed, seeing if things have improved, and so on and so forth. And for those who want to take advantage of some of the stuff that you have learned and your approach, where can they find some quality information online? I know you've written some books. Tell us a little bit about some of those offerings, and I'll make sure that I put some links in the description and in the show notes for people to check those out.
Yeah, you can find everything online if you just search Red Delta Project, which I know is kind of a unusual name, but that's part of the reason why it works. You'll find everything in my podcast, my videos, and my website. My website will link to everything, including my books. And I have now all of my books available on PDF. You can buy right from the website as well. And the books are largely about building muscle and strength with calisthenics, but there's a couple of other things that are a little bit different, some more of a philosophical approach to fitness. My latest book that just came out a couple of weeks ago is more about what I call my fundamental approach to fitness, which is observing how fitness actually works on the fundamental level. And now whenever I get a new client or someone's like, oh, I want to get in shape, I'm like, read this first. Don't learn anything else. Like, read this book first. This is what you need to understand about how fitness actually works. And it doesn't go into any sort of particular methodologies and stuff like that, because my sincere belief is you understand how things work fundamentally, then go and use whatever methodologies you like and prefer and can actually use.
Mm-hmm.
So that way you have the freedom to do things your way, which is probably going to be far more effective. But it depends on where you want to start off. If you want to get more of a fundamental approach in just how fitness works, my latest book, Be Fit, Live Free, is a good place to start. If you want to start off understanding more of my grind style method, my book, Grind Style Calisthenics, is still my primary workout Bible for building muscle and strength with calisthenics training in the most direct way possible. And then there's other supplemental books outside of that, like suspension calisthenics, like I said, using the suspension straps, which are basically a weight machine that fits in your pocket. There's also my other book, Progressive and Weighted Calisthenic, which is a good place to start off for people who are looking to get into calisthenics training, but they still want to focus on building muscle and strength. That's another place that I would tell people to start off. But yeah, all of it is on the website there at reddeltaproject.com.
Well, folks, I highly recommend that you go check it out. Matt is an OG in every sense of the word, and probably, again, the only dude who Paul Wade has ever said, yes, you can emblazon my name on a t-shirt. And that is an endorsement if ever I have heard one. So go to reddeltaproject.com. Check out all that stuff. He's got such an incredible approach. Great to see that his philosophy is spreading like wildfire and that people are really starting to take this sort of a thing very seriously. Any final thoughts to leave us with before we close out this episode?
The final thought I always tell people is you're already starting with everything you need to do. We often think that exercise, calisthenics, fitness is this thing we start. No, fundamentally, everything in fitness is always happening completely on autopilot. You're always building up your muscles. You're always burning fat. You're always adapting your body to accommodate the functional demand that you're subjecting it to every day. You're already doing everything you need to make happen completely on autopilot. Mother Nature is more than taking care of you. All you need to do is simply direct that process so you're headed in the direction you want to go in. That's all fitness is. Diet and exercise does absolutely nothing unique. Doesn't make anything happen. Everything's going to happen anyway. You just got to direct the process.
Mm-hmm.
So don't think you've got to overcome this mountain of inertia and start making all this great stuff happen, because it's already happening. All you got to do is start small with whatever you can do, with whatever action you could do right here, and you just got to direct that process, and it's a lot easier than you're making it on yourself.
Sage advice, folks. I highly recommend it. You pay close attention to it. And again, check them out at reddeltaproject.com. Matt, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Alex, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much, my friend.
The pleasure has been all mine. And folks, as always, have fun and happy training.